Hey, okay, today it's so windy that big barges aren't even on our ocean, and it's so loud, even though I'm loud, you would never hear me. So here we are inside in our little front room for Balcony Chat 34. Of course, yes, there's a tree up. I've heard that many people put their trees up early in this exciting year we've had. I always put my tree up early, so I love Christmas. I milk it, enjoy it. Okay, today we're going to talk about being too angry to even consider forgiving a certain person. In fact, when I've been talking about forgiving, you've probably been thinking about different people who are on your hit list and thinking, I don't know if I could ever really forgive her or him. You know, they're running through your mind. That's okay. Stay with me. We're going to look at that today. But before we get to the being too angry to forgive, I just have to share something. In my reading today, we're in James 2, and it talks about a faith that displays itself by its behavior, not just by saying, yes, I believe. Anyways, here they're doing this great illustration. James is using Abraham, the father of the nation of Israel. He loved God so much that he trusted him so much, and he believed that he's willing to pull a knife to his own son on Mount Moriah. So here you've got this great illustration of a man of faith called a friend of God. And the next illustration goes into my favorite prostitute. Yep, that's what she was. Rahab the harlot. And what is so unbelievable, as amazing as God's grace is, that this loose woman, a woman of challenging character, she not only saved the lives of the spies, sent them off with, protection so they could go back and tell Israel what they perceived in Jericho. And she ends up saving her whole family, because as long as they came inside of her dwelling, they would be saved when the Israelites come to conquer Jericho. But what's interesting is that could have been enough. You could just recorded that story. But no, Jesus, God Almighty, went a little extra further. You have her in God's Hall of Fame, which is in Hebrews 11. It's like his Hall of Faith. All these amazing, famous people that we all know their names. And Rahab the harlot made that list. But even more astounding is in Matthew 1. She is in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Rahab was not only saved when they conquered Jericho, she married Salome, and they became the parents of Boaz, who I actually wrote a book based on his character. How amazing that a former prostitute raises a man who knows how to treat a woman appropriately and protect her rather than exploit her. And you can look it up in Ruth too. But anyways, how amazing. So that's why I call her my favorite prostitute. So whenever I see characters in the Bible that I think, oh, here she is, she's my favorite. Amazing grace. Just like the amazing grace that had Jesus hanging around, that Mary Magdalene, who once had been immoral, got to get the first view of the heavenly bridegroom. So today we're going to talk about costly anger. And I need you to hear me in this. I had a problem with anger. I never hid it, because you can't really hide it. But anyways, I've always, for years, and it troubled me, and it bothered me. And so I actually studied, it's called Anger Management 101, and I looked up all these scriptures. It was a Christian that did it. All these scriptures that has to do with anger, all the situations that provoke anger. Well, what's interesting in studying anger, I never realized how costly it is to the vessel that it's in, moi, and to my relationships and those I love. And the more I learned about anger, the more I thought, oh, Lord God, I don't want anger. I don't want to be an angry woman. I don't want my family to pay for my anger, my husband, my children. All right. So as God's working on it and I'm, confessing and owning it, all of a sudden I thought, how is it that I'm just angry because I come from an angry family? And then I began to trace some things, which we're going to look at. What fuels anger is unforgiveness. And whenever I'm angry, I go, okay, what haven't I forgiven? Who haven't I forgiven? What do I need to forgive right now? I'm constantly checking my heart. Well, let me tell you how costly it is. In Psalm 106, verse 33, it says, they, which is the people of Israel, made Moses angry. So we can be, people say, oh, no one can make you angry. They only reveal your anger. Well, forgive me if I've ever said that, because I was quoting someone that sounded pretty good, but guess what? People can make us angry. Oh, don't get me started. Anyways, Moses was made angry by the people, and it says he spoke foolishly. Let me tell you, the worst sermon or the worst speech you'll ever regret is the one you speak in anger. Well, what's interesting about Moses, I years ago wrote a devotional called A Lunatic on a Limb with Jesus, and they changed it to Say Goodbye to Shame, and who knows where it ended up. But in it I said, I don't want to be buried with Moses, because Moses, because of his anger towards people, struck the rock. And we all know the story. And it literally, God said, speak to the rock and I'll give water to the people who are complaining again because they don't have water when God had already provided again and again and again. And guess what? They're whining again. And literally when he walked up to the rock, God said, speak to it. And he looked at that crowd, that bunch of whiners, and he got so angry that instead of speaking, he struck it. And man, when I was thinking about that again today, I thought, just think of how many people we strike with our anger and what it cost us. Relationships, marriages, parents and children estranged. So let's start getting rid of any drop of unforgiveness, because we can't afford. The people who love us can't afford us angry. You can't afford to be angry. I remember reading an article about psychosomatic illnesses that are traced. You can trace them to anger. I'm like, okay, that'd be enough right there to stop your anger. All right. James 1:20, I just want to give you a New Testament reminder about your anger before we get into the forgiveness issue. My anger never brings about God's righteousness. If you translate the word righteous, you look it up in Greek, another translation for it is comma. My anger never will bring about God's justice. Okay, something to ponder. Now, one more I found, and we're reading Ezekiel right now. Some of you are like, why are we in Ezekiel? The people of Philistia have acted against Judah. Acted, wait till you hear what they did. It was not a good moment. They acted out of bitter revenge. Remember we talked about revenge fantasies? Be careful, everybody. And long-standing contempt. This is the danger of ancient anger. There are people who are angry, and they've been angry for years because they cannot forgive the offense that they're hanging on to. And what's sad, we pass it down generationally. Like when someone's sharing a terrible thing, let's say someone's telling you something terrible their spouse has done, what do? You get angry at the spouse with her. So you take the offense up. So we're not to take up other people's offenses. We are to pray that they will eventually forgive it and let it go and not let it occupy space in their soul and make their heart, remember we talked about a wicked heart is a diseased heart. So, too angry to forgive? Well, years ago I wrote this little formula, not a formula, a little slogan in which I wrote, anger aborts love, forgiveness aborts anger. Now some of you say, why would you use the word abort? Well, you know how I'm always looking words up. One day I was thinking, anger is so poisonous. It actually poisons your love life as well. Love life, whether it's you and your spouse, love life with your child, love life with best friends, relatives. Well, listen to this passage. Ooh, Amos 1:11. Sometimes when you're reading these prophecies, you're like, what's this got to do with me? Listen to this. This is what the Lord says. The people of Edom have sinned again and again. So what did they do? What was their sin that they did it again and again that God said, this is it. You're not going to escape my punishment for this sin. What was their big sin? Now some of you are guessing already, idolatry. Get this. The people of Edom have sinned again and again, and I will not let them go unpunished. What does they do? They chase down their relatives, the Israelites, with swords, showing them no mercy. And in their rage, they slashed them continually and were unrelenting in their anger. Talk about ancient anger. Now watch this. Listen to this. They showed no mercy. And I went to look up mercy, and I figured it would say mercy / pity, compassion. Well, when I looked it up, one of the words translated is cherish womb. Cherish what's in the womb. Protect what's in the womb. Wow, wait a minute. In their rage, they slashed, which means to tear to pieces, cut away. And immediately I started thinking, oh my gosh, my anger cuts away my love. I think of people on wedding days when they're getting married, their little hearts are bursting, full of love. This beautiful thing to cherish, this womb to protect. So you're cherishing love, protecting it. And little by little, you let anger cut away. Now, what's interesting, it says they slashed, And one of those translations means to tear at it like an animal. Sometimes when I've seen people angry, I think like a foaming, rabbinic animal. You know, it scares me to death. Well, listen, it says, in their rage, they slash them continually and were unrelenting. Well, if you look up unrelenting, it not only means perpetual, but it means to guard it, protect it like a garden. Put a little fence, don't let the creatures get through. You know, put a little thing around it to protect what you're trying to grow. Unrelenting. Some people protect their anger. They hang on to it. They're proud of it. They think it's strength. Some people think it's passion. And listen, there is something to passion and energy. I mean, like, there's a lot of verses in the Bible about anger, and it's a righteous anger. It's all God's. The problem with us, our anger is rarely righteous. Sometimes it is, but rarely is. So what I want to ask you, what have you not forgiven? Who have you not forgiven? Who, when I've been talking about forgiveness, keeps coming to your mind, you're like, I cannot even stand to think of forgiving them. If you're having a hard time at the thought of ever overcoming evil with good, if you're having a hard time to think about when I talked about how do we get past this, you pray blessing. Remember, pray for those who curse you. Hello, that's what Jesus said. Pray for them. Pray bless them who speak harshly against you, abuse you. Wait. Overcome evil with good. Remember Job? He prayed a blessing on his friends and God turned his captivity and more blessings came, a double blessing came to him, was released. Some of you have stopped the delivery of your own blessings through hanging on to your anger towards someone who hurt you. It's legit, I hear ya. Okay, so one thing about anger, and I know we went over this before, about 15 weeks ago, in Ephesians 4, 26 and 27, you know it, in your anger do not sin. So that means you can be angry and not sin. God's angry and he doesn't sin. It says, in your anger, do not sin. Don't let the sun set on it. Remember I talked about time limit. Why? Because if we don't, it gives Satan a place of influence. So Satan influences me through my hanging on to my anger, ticking clock. One day the sun sets, another day the sun, I'm still angry. The sun sets again, I'm still angry. It's become, and you say, well, that's not ancient angry. Every day, hanging on to anger. Every day, hanging on to unforgiveness, it becomes ancient. And it will destroy the container it is inside and hurt those around that person. Well, I was looking at some of my visuals the other day, and I found it's a little one. Okay, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, this is based on 2 Corinthians 2, 10, and 11. 2 Corinthians 2, 10, and 11, and I'm going to give you a modern translation. Paul receives a letter and he hears that this guy who had offended everybody, they have decided now to forgive him. And he says, if you forgive him, me too. He sign me too. And Paul says, you know why I say me too? Lest Satan outwit me or you, for we are not unaware of his schemes. So unforgiveness is one of the trickiest schemes that enemy has ever used against the children of God. And what is sad is when I get angry, and I don't want to forgive somebody because they hurt me so badly. It's like little, you can't see it probably, like little rat trap. And you get caught in this trap. We're not unaware of his schemes. And you think, well, I don't think I'm angry. I don't think I'm trapped. Well, let me tell you a little something about some of you who don't think you're angry and don't think you're trapped. It's ironic. People close to you probably would say, oh, that's not necessarily true. For some of you, in my book, Free Yourself to Love, that's where all this material is from. Because if you can't forgive, you can't love. Don't even pretend I can't love someone who I can't forgive. They're inextricably linked. Okay. So on page 145, I talk about how anger is camouflaged. And I'll go very quickly. I think I've gone over this one time before, but some of you are like, huh? Anger is not always screaming, cussing, punching. Anger is sometimes silence, sulking. Poor men ask their wives all the time, is something wrong? And you're like, no. And you're sulking and you're silent because you're angry and you've been holding on to that anger because he hurt you that morning because he didn't say how pretty you looked or he forgot your anniversary or something you've been hurt by. So then you get angry because trust me, here's the deal. All hurt is followed by anger. And you go, oh no, but I don't ever get angry. Well, that means you never gotten hurt. You go, oh no, I've been hurt. Well, guess what? When you got hurt, you got angry. You just didn't notice the manifestation. Another manifestation, sarcasm, hypochondria, depression, Petty complaints, oh, we're all in trouble there. Gossip, oh man, gossip is anger's payback. Someone you have not forgiven, it's much easier to gossip against them. Stubbornness, someone will say, boy, she's stubborn. I used to say, yeah, she's one of the angriest people I've met too, because she can't forgive her father. All right, another half-hearted, they call it passive-aggressive, just another sign of unforgiveness. They get hurt, I'll show you, they hang on to the anger. Well, when I was rereading my list today, I landed on a word, I went, uh-oh, forgetfulness. Now, what does forgetfulness have to do with anger? Think about this. When someone hurts you that you love, and they say to you, oh, sweetheart, please don't forget to pick up that dry cleaning. If you go by that one area, you're like, okay. So later that day, you're doing your thing, your husband goes, hey, did you get that dry cleaning? You're like, oh, I forgot. Of course, you didn't forget everything else that your children asked you to do and your best friend asked you to run by and get, but you forgot what your husband asked because you've been sulking, you've been not forgiving, going to bed angry several nights in a row, so all of a sudden you can't remember. How interesting when I studied in that course how much anger and forgetfulness, passive-aggressive, complaints, sulking, there's so many. You just go, really? So just know this. If someone has hurt you this week, if in that moment you had immediately thought, ooh, I don't need to hang on to this. Oh, Lord, help me to let this go. Help me to bless them. Treat them as they, not as they deserve, but bless them. Work in their life. Some people I know that I'm very close to were very deeply hurt this week. And I said, man, make a list of the people that were involved. Write all their names out. And they're like, why? Write them all out. And then begin to pray blessing on each name. Lord, bless this person. Lord, bless this person. And keep doing it till your peace is restored. Because you hang on to hurt, it erodes. And you end up striking the rock of our salvation, our precious Jesus. Okay, whew, that wasn't a light one. No more rat traps. No more going to sleep angry. Dismantle that rat trap. Take that little thing where it doesn't work anymore. You don't want it working anymore. Instead, you want to forgive by faith and give the gift of love. Not that people deserve it. Not that I deserved it. We do it by faith. And man, nothing pleases God more than our faith. That's his love language, our faith. So when I forgive someone, Papa's like, that's my girl. Okay, so next week is Thanksgiving. So I will not be doing a balcony chat. I will be in my small Thanksgiving group, giving thanks and eating. But on Monday, my techie girl, Christina Stolas, is going to post, and where is my paper? Which she's going to post on my timeline if you're interested. On Monday, she's going to post. It'll be there all week. And it's the names of God. And you're like, what in the world? Okay, trust me. Look at it. If you dare, it's capable of printing. Print it. And between Monday and Thursday, glance at it. And notice in 2020, as crazy it's been, there have been places where you have had God's blessing of these different things that he does in our life. And you can almost jot it down if you want to. I did this, went through and wrote down all the things that God has been this year in spite of the pandemic, in spite of the craziness. Doesn't matter. God is still on the throne. So here's his list. And in the new year, I hope to go through this whole thing with you. But before you forget, December the 3rd, that will be my last teaching on forgiveness. And it actually is an addendum that if I could get my publisher to do it, I would have it put at the end of my book. Because it's something I learned after I wrote the book. Years. Now here I know forgiveness backwards and forwards, and this was something fresh that God gave me that I actually cried because I would rather had it where everybody could get it. So for your Christmas gift, I'm going to give it to all of you on December the 3rd. So don't miss out. Happy Thanksgiving. Love you. Bye.